Diego Sanchez, a name that reverberates through the gritty corridors of mixed martial arts, has lived a life painted with the vivid colors of triumph and shadowed by the dark strokes of turmoil. Known to the world as the Nightmare, his tale is one that grips you with its intensity and warns you with its lessons. How did a fighter, once hailed as the inaugural winner of The Ultimate Fighter, a man who seemed destined for greatness, tumble into a whirlwind of strange trainers and bewildering controversies? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Diego's wild ride, exposing not just the victories that electrified the octagon, but the personal wars that simmered beneath his fierce exterior. Are you ready to step into the ring of his life and uncover the truth behind the legend? Let's dive into the roller coaster that shaped Diego Sanchez into both a champion and a cautionary tale. Diego Sanchez's journey in mixed martial arts didn't begin under the glaring lights of a packed arena. It started in the dusty gyms of Albuquerque, New Mexico, where a young boy discovered a fire for combat sports that would burn brightly for years to come. As a high school wrestler, Sanchez dominated his opponents, pinning them to the mat with a tenacity that hinted at something greater. Wrestling wasn't just a sport for him, it was a refuge, a place where discipline and resilience took root, forging the foundation of the fighter he'd become. But the mat alone couldn't contain his ambition. Driven by a hunger for more, Sanchez transitioned into mixed martial arts as a teenager, a bold move that would alter the course of his life forever. With every sweat-soaked training session, he honed a fighting style that married his grappling roots with sharp, aggressive striking, a combination that made him a force to be reckoned with in Albuquerque's local fight scene. Rivals respected him, fans admired him, and soon, the world would know his name. In 2005, destiny knocked on Diego's door with an opportunity that would catapult him into the spotlight. The Ultimate Fighter, a groundbreaking reality show, burst onto the scene, offering aspiring fighters a shot at a UFC contract, and Sanchez seized it with both hands. From the moment he stepped into the house, the cameras captured his raw determination, his eyes blazing with a mix of charisma and ferocity. The competition was brutal, grueling training, sleepless nights, and battles against fighters just as desperate for glory, but Sanchez thrived in the chaos. His relentless spirit carried him through, and when the dust settled, he stood tall as the first-ever Ultimate Fighter. That victory wasn't just a trophy on a shelf, it was a seismic shift, transforming an underdog from New Mexico into a rising star. The image of his humble roots clashing with his newfound fame became iconic, a spark that ignited a fire in his soul, propelling him toward a future he'd only dreamed of. With the UFC now his stage, Sanchez took on established names, his dynamic skills dazzling fans and fighters alike. One unforgettable night came against Nick Diaz, a bout that showcased his relentless pace and unyielding heart. Bloodied and bruised, Sanchez fought like a man possessed, earning the adoration of a growing fanbase. The octagon became his canvas, each fight a masterpiece of grit and passion. Fame followed swiftly, but with it came the weight of expectation. The spotlight burned bright, illuminating his triumphs, yet it also cast long shadows, pressure from supporters, scrutiny from critics, all shaping the narrative of his rise. In those early days, though, defeat seemed a distant threat. Sanchez was hungry, driven, unstoppable. His journey from a wrestling champ in Albuquerque to a UFC sensation was a tale of hope and ambition, but the twists ahead would test him in ways no one could foresee. The year 2005 wasn't just a milestone for Sanchez, it was a turning point for mixed martial arts. The Ultimate Fighter didn't just launch his career, it reshaped the sport itself. For Diego, the show was a crucible, thrusting him from obscurity into the national spotlight. Living in a house packed with rival fighters, he faced not just physical battles but a mental gauntlet, every day a test of survival, every fight a step closer to his dream. His victories on the show weren't just wins, they were statements, proving he belonged among the elite. When he claimed the title, it wasn't just a contract he won, it was a legacy in the making, a signal that the UFC had a new star. Fans fell in love with his vibrant personality and electrifying style, cheering for a man whose journey mirrored their own dreams of breaking through. That fame opened doors, headlining events, building a brand, while setting a blueprint for how fighters could connect with the world. Sanchez became the face of what the show could achieve: talent, drama, and an unbreakable spirit. But as the spotlight grew hotter, the road ahead would challenge every ounce of that spirit. Success came fast and fierce for Diego Sanchez. After The Ultimate Fighter, he wasn't just a fighter, he was a phenomenon. His unique blend of grappling and striking made every bout a spectacle, and fans couldn't get enough. In 2006, he faced Kenny Florian at UFC 64, a clash that showcased his raw power and unshakable resolve. Victory followed, solidifying his place in the lightweight division. Then came iconic battles against Clay Guida and BJ Penn, fights that had audiences roaring, hearts pounding, as Sanchez pushed the limits of what a fighter could be. Beyond the wins, it was his personality that set him apart. His wild war cries echoing through the arena, his emotional outpourings after every bell, they made him more than a competitor, they made him a character, a living legend in the sport. Opportunities poured in, endorsements, speaking gigs, a chance to inspire others with his story. Sanchez embraced it all, his larger-than-life presence making him a household name. But beneath the glory, cracks were forming. The pressure of staying on top, the weight of every expectation, it was a burden that would soon test him in ways he never imagined. The downfall didn't hit all at once, it crept in slowly, insidiously. Injuries began to pile up, sidelining Sanchez for fights that could have defined his career. Each absence chipped away at his confidence, leaving scars deeper than the bruises on his body. The spotlight that once lifted him now pressed down, heavy and unrelenting. Rumors swirled about his life outside the cage, wild nights, reckless choices, a spiral that threatened everything he'd built. Inside the octagon, the consistency fans loved began to falter. Losses stacked up, and the whispers grew louder: could the nightmare reclaim his throne? The UFC moved on, pairing him with lesser matchups, and the frustration gnawed at him. His mental state became the question on everyone's lips: was he breaking under the strain? Fans watched, hearts sinking, as their hero slipped further from reach. But the story wasn't over. A new chapter was brewing, one that would shock the world and plunge Sanchez into his strangest chapter yet. Enter Joshua Fabia, a name that would become synonymous with controversy in Diego Sanchez's life. Fabia burst onto the scene as a self-proclaimed trainer and guru, his unconventional methods raising eyebrows from the start. Sanchez, searching for a way back to the top, latched onto Fabia's bizarre approach. At first, it seemed to work. Odd drills and philosophies breathed new life into his training. But soon, the cracks showed. Reports of strange rituals, erratic behavior, and a deepening obsession painted a troubling picture. Fabia's influence seeped into Sanchez's interviews, his fights, his very being, leaving fans and fighters alike baffled and concerned. Was this partnership lifting him up or dragging him down? The answer came in the octagon, where losses mounted and Sanchez's once sharp skills dulled. His conduct grew stranger, wild outbursts, odd claims, until the breaking point arrived. The split from Fabia was messy, public, and inevitable, following a fallout over his career's direction. The UFC cut ties, and Sanchez hit rock bottom, a fighter lost in the chaos of his own making. The aftermath was raw and uncertain. Sanchez spoke of reclaiming his life, distancing himself from the toxicity that had consumed him. But the scars lingered, questions about his mental health swirled, and fans worried for the man they'd once cheered. The descent had been brutal, a slow unraveling of losses, paranoia, and isolation. In the cage, he'd battled opponents; outside it, he'd fought himself. Yet, amid the wreckage, a spark flickered. Sanchez began to break free, calling out Fabia's manipulations and seeking therapy, mentors, a way back to the light. It wasn't easy, doubt shadowed his every step, but with each move forward, he rebuilt. Social media became his megaphone, sharing a story of survival that resonated far beyond the sport. On Joe Rogan's podcast, he laid it bare: his struggles, his triumphs, proving resilience wasn't just for the octagon. The fight wasn't over, it had just changed shape. Diego Sanchez's saga is a wild, winding tale, of a champion's rise, a star's fall, and a survivor's redemption. From the wrestling mats of Albuquerque to the UFC's grandest stages, he soared, only to crash under fame's weight and controversies' grip. His journey mirrors the duality of glory, a spotlight that dazzles and a shadow that devours. Now, as he carves a new path, we're left wondering, can the nightmare reclaim his peace? His story is a testament to resilience, a reminder that behind every punch lies a human heart, beating through the chaos. Let's watch this fighter rise again, hoping the next chapter brings the strength and serenity he's fought so hard to find.